Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. We'll chant Om once together. Synchronize the chanting of Om with your exhalation. Breathe in. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu ma vitvishavahay. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gently open your eyes. We'll chant from verses 68 to 72 of chapter 2. Tasmadhyasya mahabaho,
Tasmadhyasya mahabaho,
Nigrihitani sarvashah,
Nigrihitani sarvashah,
Indriyani-indriyarthebhyah,
Indriyani-indriyarthebhyah,
Tasya prajna pratisthita,
Tasya prajna pratisthita,
Ya nisha sarvabhutanam,
Ya nisha sarvabhutanam,
Tasyam jagati sanyami,
Tasyam jagarti sanyami,
Yasyam jagrati bhutani,
Yasyam jagrati bhutani,
Sa nisha pashyato muneः,
Sa nisha pashyato muneः,
Apuryamānamachala pratishtham,
Apuryamānamachala pratishtham,
Samudramāpah pravishanti yadvat,
Samudramāpah pravishanti yadvat,
Tadvat kāmāyam pravishanti sarve,
Tadvat kāmāyam pravishanti sarve,
Sashantimāpnoti na kāmakāmi,
Sashantimāpnoti na kāmakāmi,
Vihāya kāmānyas sarvān,
Vihāya kāmānyas sarvān,
Pumāmscharati nisprihah,
Pumāmscharati nisprihah,
Nirmamo nirahankārah,
Nirmamo nirahankārah,
Sashantimadhigacchati,
Sashantimadhigacchati,
Esha brahmi sthiti partha,
Esha brahmi sthiti partha,
Nainam prapya vimuhyati,
नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति
स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि
स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति
Hari Om, and a very good day to all of you. So, we have been seeing verse number 70 for the last 2 weeks. The power behind this verse is actually tremendous. I would say every verse of the Bhagavad Gita is very, very powerful. But what is very interesting is that power, that energy is hidden. You have to discover it. See, spirituality is a process of discovering the truth. Any amount of external knowledge you gain, someone comes and tells you, that is all one thing. But ultimately, you need to discover things for yourself. This wisdom is being given to you to help you discover the truths of life. See, when a person has already traveled the path, I'm talking of these great masters, not one person but many people. They know what are the pitfalls and all that. Then they give a direction and say, you move in this direction. That is meant for two purposes. One is to ensure that you also don't go and fall into the pit and hurt yourself unnecessarily. Let not the learning be so difficult. And the second thing is they also are giving the basic guidelines towards how you can approach life. What are the things which you can do which will help you discover your purpose in life, which will help you unravel the mysteries of life. So these verses, they have an external beauty also. If you just superficially just chant them, mere chanting of these verses also gives you so much of peace, positive energy. And then a little bit you understand what these verses are saying. That gives you a lot of clarity. But as sadhaks, we are not going to stop with that. See, one of the key things which you need to develop if you want to become a yogi is an uncompromising attitude. You should always go for the best. The tenacity should be there. If you have this tendency to compromise, to get satisfied with a little bit of benefits, then you will not really reach a high level in spirituality. How does an ordinary person become a sthita prajna? What helps an ordinary person to become a sthita prajna? Because it's a long process. It's a long process of evolution and self-transformation. It is this quality where you don't, that is, you are not satisfied with limited benefits. That uncompromising attitude. So just because you have understood these verses superficially, now if you're happy with that, then you will miss the deeper messages. You will miss that power which is packed within these verses. See, if you give a computer and a keyboard to a little child, now the child will only keep playing with that externally. Child will not know the power of the computer. But as an adult, if you are given a computer and if you are given the keyboard, all the aspects of a computer, now you exactly know how to use it. It is the same thing. With the yogic approach, more clarity is being given to you. The power of these verses are being brought out. The energy behind these verses are being brought out. So this verse has so much of power. It can actually make you a very, very powerful person, provided you absorb the energy behind it. The same verse can also be taken in a merely intellectual way, and you will, some examples can be given, some jokes can be cracked, and some stories can be given, and then we just move on. But that will no doubt give you a certain amount of clarity, but it will not make you a powerful person. What do we mean by a powerful person? I am not talking of the external power. See, when you can control others, that is one kind of power. You're dominating and you're trying to control things externally. But the power which I'm talking about here is your inner power. And what is the power of a Sthita Prajna? What gives the power to a Sthita Prajna which an ordinary person does not have? That is Shantihi. Shantihi means peace, calmness, tranquility. A Sthita Prajna experiences that infinite peace within himself or herself. And when you are peaceful, that is your highest wealth, that is your highest power which you can gain. If you are affected by every little thing which is happening outside, if you are agitated and stressed, you start becoming powerless. The external situations start controlling you. They dictate terms to you. Just a change of weather outside, if that is enough to put your mind off balance, then you are a very weak person. So spirituality is all about strength. It is all about power. But the moment we say strength, we use words like strength and power and all that, you will confuse it with external power. You will think about having control over others. That is called power. When a person tries to control everybody else, actually that person is very weak. He or she is suffering from a complex. It is because of the insecurity that he wants to control others. A person who is very peaceful, calm, and composed from within, he will not want to control anyone. He is 100% secure. So you may acquire so many wealth from outside. That is all fine. But the highest wealth is what these verses are giving you, and that is the inner peace, Shantihi. Goddess Lakshmi is a personification of wealth. Wealth is Goddess Lakshmi. Now, people only know even that concept they've understood it in a very superficial way. They think Lakshmi means money. It is not that. Lakshmi externally means abundance, not merely money. Money is also a part of it. Money, your other assets, rich relationships, that is abundance in every area of your life. This is a deeper meaning, but there is a further depth to Goddess Lakshmi, and that is the subtler aspect of Goddess Lakshmi is your inner wealth, which is nothing but peace. And what is very interesting is, in the Puranic stories, they have depicted Lakshmi as one who has come from the ocean. Here he is giving the ocean example only when we are talking about peace. And in the Puranic story also, they have given out the same concept. The gods and demons churn the milky ocean. First the poison came out, and then good things started manifesting. And one of the things which came out from deep within, from the ocean, was Goddess Lakshmi. One of the meanings of this episode is that Lakshmi is wealth, but from where is she coming? From the ocean, from the state of peace. So wealth which comes out from the state of peace, that is external wealth, when it is a manifestation of your internal peace, you will be very happy. But in the pursuit of external wealth, if you lose your inner wealth, which is peace of mind, then in spite of having the best of things in the world, you will not be happy. So this verse and the next verse actually teaches you how to function in life so that you can get the external wealth of Goddess Lakshmi, the gross aspect of the Goddess Lakshmi, without disturbing your internal wealth, the subtle aspect of Goddess Lakshmi. See, Goddess Lakshmi is within you only. I have repeatedly been saying all the gods and goddesses, they are all different energies within us. You need to learn to tap those energies. Lord Ganesha is within you. It is the energy of success. Lakshmi is the energy of wealth. So it is not enough if you merely acquire external wealth. The inner wealth should not be lost. So that is why Lakshmi came out from the ocean. Ocean, even deep within the ocean, is in a state of complete peace and tranquility. That is where Goddess Lakshmi came out, manifested. So if you learn to function in the world without disturbing the inner peace, that is called the dharmic way of functioning, the sadhana way, the yogic way. When you function in life and in that process, if you lose your inner peace, then that is called the adharmic way of life. It is not the yogic way. So last week I was telling you about how you are seeking only one thing in many ways. You are not actually seeking many things. Now, why is that so important for you to understand? I did mention, when you are clear about what you are wanting actually, the way you function itself will become different. See, whenever you are performing any activity, if you know why that activity is being performed, you will perform it with more intensity, more purpose. When you actually don't know why you are performing an activity and you are just doing it, Now, slowly, all your activities will become mechanical. If you were to examine the world today, the majority of the people are leading a mechanical routine life. When I say routine, again you will equate it to your job. You will say, oh, every day I'm going to the job and coming back. It is not merely in the external action, but I'm talking about your internal attitude. You really don't know why you are doing the things which you're doing today. Why did you go to school? Why did you get educated? Why are you acquiring so much of wealth? Why are you getting married? Why are you getting into relationships? Why are you giving birth to children? Like this, all the activities if you take up, have you ever thought about it? What am I trying to do in life? You have no time to think of all these things. You don't have time to ask this basic question to yourself, because the very structure or the very way the world is made is in such a way that it entices you completely. It gets you so involved, and what happens is, see, this is called Maya. Maya means illusion. Last week I was telling you about the story of Krishna Yashoda, the mud one. I did mention casually about Yoga Maya, sister of Vishnu. Now, what is the work of Yoga Maya? She just casts an illusion over the minds of people. So, by keeping you mechanically involved in the various activities, what is Maya trying to do? It robs away your time. Before you realize, many years would have passed by. In the Bhajagovindam, Adi Shankara beautifully says, he says, Kala kridati gacchati ayuhu. Gacchati ayuhu. Kala kridati means the time sports, plays about. Day and night, danaya minyau sayam pratah. Day, night, or morning, evening, like this, Then the months pass by. So before you realize, your time will just pass by. Just like that, 20 years will go by, 30 years will go away. When we started this online, suddenly if you see more than 1.5 years have gone by. Someone has sent a mail saying that, sir, I didn't realize that we've been having these sessions online. That is due to the COVID situation, we started online, right? And it's more than 1.5 years. So, did you feel the passage of time? No. Why is it? That is the Maya. So, when you are mechanically doing an activity, I see a classic example of that is when people play cards. Sometimes they just sit and they play a game of rummy or whatever game, bridge or whatever it is, the whole night. So they are just playing the same game, again and again and again and again. They are going on playing. Suddenly you will find about 8 hours would have gone by, and they wouldn't have realized the passage of time. Now, what you need to understand is that is exactly what is happening in your life also. The work of Yoga Maya is to rob your time. And how does she manage to rob your time? See, if somebody wants to rob something from you, will you allow it? You will not allow it. If you are aware that someone is going to take away something from you. But in this case, you are not aware that time is being robbed from you. How is she robbing away the time from you? By making your mind totally enmeshed, involved in the various activities, by making you function in a very mechanical way. Your time is getting robbed. So you start your life and then you close your eyes, open your eyes, suddenly 40, 50 years would have gone by. And if you're not careful, you will suddenly be in your deathbed. And that time you will start thinking, what have I done in my life? But before you can do something about it, now you will drop the body and you will get on with the next life, next birth. This is the cycle which is going on. So what is preventing you from growing spiritually? What is preventing you from tapping your inner powers? It is this mechanical actions. That is, whatever you do in life. When I say action, I don't mean merely physical actions. Everything which you are pursuing in life, you're doing it in a very mechanical way. And anywhere you are mechanical, there will be no depth. There will be no purpose. So the entire night can go away just by playing the card games, I'm not saying that is right or wrong. I'm only giving an example. Similarly, your entire life can go away if you have a mechanical approach. So in order to break that, how do you get out of this strong influence of Maya? Maya has many aspects. One powerful aspect is this, robbing your time away. So how do you get out of that? It is by attacking this tendency of the mind to act mechanically. How? By introducing the awareness, by becoming more aware about whatever you're doing. That is why the perfect person is called Sthita Prajna here. Prajna means wisdom, awareness, consciousness. So the moment you start becoming more aware, automatically you will question, what is my purpose? Why am I doing these things? Again, I am cautioning you. They are not saying don't go after the world, don't acquire things. That is not what they are saying. You should have a purpose. See, your purpose should be clear. Every action which you do, everything which you do in life should become purposeful. And that purpose can be gained, can be achieved only if you know what you're seeking, only if you have that clarity. So that is why the word Shantihi is so powerful in this verse. So last week again I had given you the same homework, which is to ask yourself in the spare time in a meditative way, just sit for a few minutes quietly and I asked you to examine your entire life and what is it that I'm seeking? What is that one thing which I'm seeking through many, many channels? The more you get into that state, the more you will be able to gain that clarity and purpose in life. It will automatically happen. Why I had asked you to do this homework is, when you start realizing that your main goal, your goal is Shantihi, not those things which you're seeking outside, then you will also become aware of one more thing. That is, if you were to examine your life, see, this point cannot be understood if your awareness has not been awakened. That's why last 2 weeks I'd given a lot of wisdom and slowly increased the awareness so that you can start examining your life more deeply. I'll give you one more subtle tip. The moment you understand that what you're seeking is only peace, now you will start picking up those things which will enhance your peace. See, Shanti is of two types. One is temporary peace, which you gain by acquiring something from the world, by fulfilling your desire. The other is permanent peace, infinite peace, that you gain by becoming like an ocean, becoming one with the infinite. Now in this verse and in the next verse, he is talking about both these kinds of Shanti. So whenever you acquire something from the world, temporarily your mind is calmed down. You feel very peaceful, you feel happy. But when you go deep within and get connected with the infinite, you are permanently in a state of peace. So we will slowly refine ourselves. First is, you can't stop acting. In chapter 3, when we see that, he'll say, you cannot get away from action. You will have to function in the world. Now, what are the things which you are doing in the world? If you were to examine your life, you will find that mostly you will be doing things which actually agitate you more. You're picking up things, you're doing such action, you're speaking, when you're speaking, you're using such words, your tone, your bhavana, everything is in such a way, is in such a manner which disrupts your peace. A good example of this would be when between a husband and wife. Have you ever thought about saying those kinds of things, doing those kinds of things which will give you peace in that relationship? No. You will see, I'm talking of from both ends, The husband is also doing things which will disrupt the peace in the relationship. The wife also does things which will disrupt the peace of the relationship. So that's why when two people get married, they are so happy, peaceful and all that. But as time goes by, a lot of quarrels starts happening, bickering. So the marriage which was meant to give you peace and happiness now becomes a source of stress. When you acquire wealth, I'm giving you various examples. When you acquire wealth, wealth is a commodity which is supposed to give you peace and happiness, temporary peace. Whenever we talk of acquiring something from outside, that will come under temporary peace. When we talk of the inner transformation, that will come under permanent peace. So temporary peace is called bhoga, enjoyment. Permanent peace is called moksha or yoga. Both bhoga and yoga actually mean one and the same. One is temporary in nature, the other is permanent in nature. So spirituality is a science of achieving both bhoga and moksha. That is why in the 9th chapter Krishna says, that's a center of the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 22, if I'm right, chapter 9. He says, Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate. Just think of me. Me means the infinite. I'm not getting into that part, but finally he says, Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. I will give you yoga which is union with the infinite. I will give you kshema. Kshema means bhoga, that is the worldly enjoyment also. So the yogis were very, very practical. If you are functioning in the world, function in such a way that you will achieve your objective. You will achieve your purpose, which is peace. No doubt that may be temporary in nature, but that is better than getting stressed. So if you do such things which will give you health, that will give you a lot of peace. If you do such actions which will give you success in life, which will help you achieve your other career goals, now that will give you a temporary peace. So that homework which I asked you to do about examining what is that one thing which I am seeking, will actually make all your actions, your speech, your emotions, everything which emanate from you very purposeful. So when do we say an action is purposeful? When you achieve the objective of that action. If you are earning money and then you are getting more stressed, then that action is a foolish action. But if you are earning money and you are using money to achieve your objective, which is shanti, even though it is temporary in nature, that will give you a glimpse of that permanent peace, that the self-realization. So you will complete that experience. If you are married and you are having a family, that family should give you that happiness, that peace. Again, see how the Maya will function is, whenever you get stressed, you hardly even suspect that the problem is within you. You will always blame something outside. There are many people who go about saying money is sinful. Wealth, don't acquire wealth at all. It is an illogical statement. See, if you take money, it's just a piece of paper. How can that be how can you call it as evil or good and all that? It is neither good nor evil. It is how you relate to money that makes it good or bad. If you relate to it in a mechanical way, in an adharmic way, then that is going to cause a lot of stress within you. Similarly, some people in the name of spirituality, they say, no, family, it's all samsara, relationships are it will just get you entangled and all that. No, per se the relationships don't entangle you. It is your mind which gets entangled. So if you absorb the energy of this word peace, and that's what I'm trying to do last 2 weeks, even the Nididhyasana meditations, to install this energy into the deeper layers of your mind that will help you when you're doing your sadhana. So to the extent you absorb that energy within you, to that extent you will begin to use the world to become peaceful. So when you're acting in the world, you will experience whatever you wanted to experience, that is peace, shanti. And when you speak to someone, you will again experience peace. That satisfaction you will get when you relate to someone. Then when you in your work, in your career, the various activities which you do, all that will give you a tremendous sense of satisfaction, a sense of peace within you. So this is whenever you're contacting the world, you should acquire that shanti. Even though it is temporary in nature, it is a must. And then when you sit and do your personal sadhana, that is the efforts made to become one with the infinite aspect within you. That will slowly take you towards the infinite peace, the permanent peace, the peace of self-realization or God realization. So why is this temporary peace also important? Whenever you contact the world, and if that world is agitating you today, now when you sit and meditate, those agitations, that stress will not allow you to go deep in your meditation. It will not allow your consciousness to rise. So when we are when I'm asking you to do the Yoga Sankirtan Sadhana, every day you will find a lot of thoughts and emotions coming out, and whatever stress, whatever negative energy, impressions which you've stored within yourself, they will all start getting cleaned up. That is a good thing only. But side by side, when you function in the world, if you function in the way which is being suggested here, that is, do things in such a way, pick up those things which will make you more peaceful. See, there was a couple who, this is several years back, they came to me for counseling, advice, and each one was, the wife was blaming the husband and the husband was blaming the wife. So they went on playing the blame game. So for 1 second I paused them and I said, instead of playing the blame game, now why don't you try to listen to each other? First I asked the wife to keep quiet, let the husband talk. Now listen to what he's trying to communicate. After that I said, husband, now you have to, I told him, you now keep quiet and let the wife give out her points. Now you try to listen, because when you are actually complaining, there is some stress which you're going through and you don't know how to express it. So it is coming out in the form of fights. So instead, use that opportunity to understand each other. What is it that she is wanting? What is it that he is wanting? So they did that. I told him, I can't endlessly keep listening to your list of complaints, but I'll give you 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, you tell whatever points you want to tell. But you have to keep quiet. When I say keep quiet, even mentally be calm, peaceful, and understand her. Similarly, then 5 minutes, you have to keep quiet and you need to understand him when he's talking. Now, when they did that exercise, that very action of trying to understand each other gave them so much of peace, so much of happiness. When they came, they were so agitated. So what I told them was, just 5 minutes I asked you to practice this simple thing, try to understand each other and see how much of peace immediately that gave you. Now if you can make it a part of your life, instead of complaining about each other, try to understand each other. Your solutions will come automatically. So the wife was saying, he's not spending enough time with me. He's always watching the TV. All that she was saying. The husband was saying she's always talking negative about others. Something, both of them were going on talking. But the moment they approached it from a sadhana point of view, the same inputs which earlier were causing a lot of issues, now they started, the input started giving them so much of peace, because the husband was able to understand the wife better and the wife was able to understand what the husband was feeling. So after 10 minutes of this exercise, now I told them, I told the husband first, you tell me what you need to do and let your wife also tell me what she needs to do. They themselves gave me. The husband said, I have to spend more time with her. Otherwise, what is the point in getting married? You hardly get time, with each other. Is there you might as well lived separately. So all that clarity dawned upon him. Similarly, the wife also felt that she was being too possessive and she was not giving him that freedom at all. Her expectations were very, very unrealistic. She only said that, and I understand that. So from that peace came that clarity. And after about 3 months, they had sent a very nice mail saying that, all the problems just like that vanished within 10-15 minutes. Life is actually so simple. So you have to now take this peace and extend it in every area of your life. Wherever you're very stressed, it means that you have done certain things. That is, there are certain factors which are contributing to that stress. So you will have to convert them into factors which can contribute towards your peace. Sometimes you're reading your favorite book, or you're watching a serial, a series in Netflix, or whatever it is that you're doing. At that time, your young little child comes and he or she wants to express something to you. Now, if you just pause that and spend a little time with the child, that will go a long way in strengthening the relationship. When the child becomes a teenager, your life will be so peaceful because of the relationship. But what I have seen many parents, they just get irritated with the child. Now, that incident will be forgotten by both the child and the parents from the conscious level. But that will go into the deeper layers of the mind of the child without its knowledge. And that will become a negative factor contributing towards the stress in that relationship. See, these small things in life actually contribute towards the quality of your life. That is why the yogis call life as Anubhavadhara. Anubhavadhara means the flow of experiences. Anubhava means experiences. So experience by experience, you should ensure that that it contributes towards your purpose, which is Shanti, peace. What type of food are you taking? What type are you doing your exercises? Every little thing, all that will contribute towards your peace, your purpose. So he just says very easily, Shantim Saha Shantim Apnoti. But how do you obtain that? So as a start, this small sadhana was given to you to start examining what you're seeking. So the more clarity you will have, with that clarity when you function in life, you will slowly, you will stop contributing to those factors in life which are actually ruining your peace of mind today. Every day you're, let us say, reading all the negative news. Now, those are all contributing towards your stress. Every time you criticize someone, that is actually building a lot of negative energy within you. It is contributing towards your internal stress. We'll come to the other person later, but first you are getting disturbed. So once your awareness increases, that's what we've been trying to do in the last 2 weeks with regards to your purpose as is a Shantihi. So once your clarity, awareness increases, then you will cut off all these contributing factors which contribute towards your stress, and you will start picking up things which will genuinely contribute towards the enhancement of your inner peace. So whether you are working in the office, or whether you are relating to your spouse, your children, your friends, even when you're watching a movie, anything which you do, you're eating food, everything will automatically become a sadhana. Every aspect of your life will become a sadhana. So this is a simple yardstick. If any action is contributing towards your inner peace, I'm not talking of a short-term peace merely, but that temporary peace which will further help you to move towards the infinite peace, So any action which will make you also peaceful and all others around you peaceful, that action becomes a sadhana for you, a tool. See, sadhana means an instrument. The instrument which you use, the tool which you use to achieve your purpose. And your purpose here is the infinite. Shantihi. So when an action, it may be a so-called spiritual action also. Supposing you're doing a particular puja, but you're doing it out of fear. Oh, if I don't do this puja, now something bad will happen to me. Now that action is not contributing towards your peace. See, any ritual, any puja, if at all you're doing, should be done in a peaceful way, out of happiness, not out of fear. Remember, one person whom you do not need to fear is God. Yet we use the word, I am very God-fearing, people say. You don't need to be God-fearing. Fear is negative energy. You need to be God-loving. Devotion is love. Whether you are watching these sessions right now, whether you are doing anything else in life, do it in such a way that it contributes towards your purpose. It contributes towards whatever you're seeking ultimately. Then your entire life will become a sadhana. So we'll see more of this as we go along. So what is he saying here? Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudram apaha pravishanti yadvat. As the ocean remains unmoved when it is filled with water from all quarters, tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarvehi sa shantim apnoti na kama kami. The one will obtain peace if he allows, in whom the objects of desire enter, not the desirer of objects. That part we'll come to. That is actually a very subtle point which he is giving. But the first thing, that is in the first line, he uses the word samudram. So I had brought your attention to the first to the word shantihi, which is there in the third line. Now in the very first line, that is the second line, samudram, he starts off by saying samudram. Samudram means ocean. This is the second word which you need to focus on. See, I'm dealing with this verse in a slightly different way than what we did the previous verses, because this verse is actually a very deep and powerful verse, and it's very difficult to absorb the energy behind this. So in the yogic approach, sometimes we use this simple method, that is picking up the key words from the verses which will help you to unlock the energy behind the verse. So first was Shantihi. Now the second word which you should absorb is this word Samudram. Samudram means ocean. He is no doubt making a specific comparison when he says the Sthita Prajna is like an ocean. But in a broad way, if you take an ocean, the moment you talk of the ocean, what is that which comes to your mind? A state of completeness, a state of paripurna. Last week in the meditation, I had used this word paripurna. I had already installed a little bit of that energy within you so that it becomes easy for you to absorb this energy of the word paripurna, that is samudram, when he says the ocean. Why is it so important? Now when he's comparing the Sthita Prajna with the ocean, remember what he's trying to tell you is you should also become like an ocean. What is the nature of the ocean? The nature of the ocean is to be complete. Fullness. In life, you always feel incomplete. See, when you are asked, what are all your problems, you will immediately list down all your problems. Why is that? All your problems which you are listing down are stemming from a sense of incompleteness. If you want to become one with the infinite, the nature of infinite is completeness, Purnam. You know, in the Mahashiva Dhyana, in the end, Om Purnamada Purnamidam, that mantra has been chanted. It's an invocatory mantra given in the Upanishads. It comes even in the Isavasya Upanishad also. Now that mantra is so powerful because he straightaway establishes that completeness, that wholeness of the infinite and the individual. Om Purnamada means that is infinite. Om Purnamidam means this is also infinite. This means he means the microcosm, the individual. So that is also infinite. This is also infinite. And he goes on in that, the infinite comes out from infinite. And infinite having come out from infinite, what remains is nothing but infinite. Purnam. Purnam means infinite or complete. So even before entering the main Upanishads, he wants the sadhak to get into a state of paripurna. So learn that word today. Paripurna means, Purnam itself means complete. Paripurna means completely complete. Very difficult to translate. Completeness from all dimensions. That is paripurna. That is what he is trying to give you by comparing the Sthita Prajna with the Samudram, ocean. This entire verse is talking about how to gain that completeness in your life. Whenever you are incomplete, you will be stressed. Whenever you are complete, that will give you peace. When you fulfill a desire, what happens? You get a temporary completeness. That is, when you have a desire, yes, I want this, it means you are not having that. There is a sense that is where the sense of incompleteness is there. And then when you acquire, when you fulfill the desire, you are temporarily removing that incompleteness which you were feeling with respect to that object. And that is what gives you that Shanti or peace. But a yogi is not dependent on the objects of desire and all that. He straightaway absorbs, awakens and installs the energy of completeness within him or her. That power you have as a human being. See, you know only one way. That is, you try to fill up that incompleteness by acquiring things from outside. Even if you fulfill a desire, that is only a temporary state, that is temporary peace only. After that, again you will feel incomplete with respect to something else. This cycle is going on and on and on, and in the long run you end up with so many pockets of incompleteness, as it were. And that is what is making you stressed. That is what is making you feel lonely. That is what is making you sorrowful. It is the incompleteness within you. The more incomplete you are, the more agitated you will be. So in the sadhana, through sadhana, what are we trying to do within us? We are trying to become more full, more whole. WHOLE, whole. And then when you are acting in the world, again if you do it in a sadhana way, you will keep on completing your experiences. And the more you achieve that, the inner transformation will automatically happen. You don't need to change your place. You don't need to change anything outside. It is just filling yourself from within, which will give you that inner transformation. From a weak person who gets disturbed with every little thing that goes wrong outside, you will become a very strong person who is unmoved. We will be seeing that also. He uses the word achala in the first line, apuryamanam achala pratishtham, unmoved. Achala means unmoved. That completeness will give you that quality of achala. So if you can see the state of an ocean, the big rivers like Ganga and Yamuna may go and join the ocean, but the ocean is unmoved. You go and buckets of water you take from the ocean and come out, it is not bothered. Why? Because it is in a state of completeness, fulfillment. That is what you are deep within you. Your higher self is in a state of completeness, paripurna. Due to ignorance, you are not realizing your inner nature of paripurna today. These sessions are meant to add value to your life by making you realize what you're having inside you. There is nothing which a guru is going to put from outside. Everything is there within you. You just have to realize that infinite wealth which is lying within you. If you are dependent on the world for your peace, you will never be peaceful. All the peace and happiness which you are seeking is there within you already. Your actions, everything which you're doing in the world should become an expression of that peace, expression of that completeness. The more you try to complete yourself by acquiring external things, the more you will only end up becoming more and more incomplete. It is only this wisdom which can help you to complete all your experiences in life. When you sit and meditate, what are the factors which do not allow your consciousness to rise? They are those areas in your life which you feel incomplete. That is why In the yogic science, they always say that you should start fixing clear-cut goals and start achieving things in your life along with your inner sadhana, because the more you are an achiever outside, that will help you to freely do your inner sadhana and raise your consciousness. It works both ways. So today, everything which you're doing it from a state of incompleteness. That is a non-sadhana way of functioning. So what he's saying here is, when you function in the world, first you become complete, become paripurna, start putting in efforts towards that. And then whatever it is that you're doing, let them all be expressions of that inner state of paripurna and peace and shanti. And not only that, whenever you're acquiring something from the world, when you acquire it from a state of incompleteness, you will become stressed because you're one step lower than that object of desire. You're vibrating at a lower frequency. Whereas when you are in a state of fullness, completeness, it's a royal way of functioning. You may have things, you may not have things. All that do not matter. All the forces of nature will be under your command. So this is the difference between a sadhana way of life and a non-sadhana way of life. So this has been so beautifully covered in the Mahashiva Purana. In that, he says, he gives two paths. One is the path to moksha, self-realization. Other is a path of devolution. So he says, path to moksha is very simple. Dharma, it starts with dharma. Dharma has many facets. So dharma, your ultimate dharma is shanti, peace. That is what your nature is. So dharma, from dharma, kama. Kama means desire. When the kama comes from dharma, that is, you understand your purpose, and if your desire comes out in a sadhana way, it's no longer kama, it becomes ichcha shakti actually, a willful desire. Now that will lead to bhoga. Bhoga means enjoyment. So dharma, kama, bhoga, and that bhoga, after bhoga, he says moksha, you will realize. The other path he gives is, starting is adharma, a non-sadhana way of functioning. You don't know what your purpose in life is. You don't know that you're seeking only one thing. You're in the spell, under the spell of the illusion, Then from adharma, if kama comes, adharma, kama, desire comes, it becomes actual kama, which is what he says, na kama kami, not the desire of objects. So when that comes from a state of adharma, whatever I was telling you, incompleteness, all those are aspects of adharma. Then adharma, kama, what will it lead to? Not bhoga, it will lead to asakti. Asakti means attachment. And asakti will not liberate you. Rather, after asakti, he has put adhogati. Adhogati means total destruction. So dharma, kama, bhoga and moksha. You enjoy the world, bhoga, and you also enjoy the bliss of the infinite, which is becoming a sthita prajna. The other path, adharma, kama. Kama is there, the desire, and then asaktihi. Asaktihi means tremendous attachment, entanglement, and that will lead to adhogati, means you will devolve, your consciousness will go down. So he clearly gives the two paths and he suggests that you take this path. Once you gain the clarity, you will automatically prefer this path only, because that is what your goal is. There are two roads and you are standing in the center. You don't know which road to take. A person gives you the clarity. He says this road will reach this destination. This road there is a cliff and you will fall down. Now, which one will you choose? You will automatically choose the one road which is safe and which can help you reach your destination. It is as simple as that. So, samudram apaha pravishanti. So the ocean is so complete and full that even though all the waters are coming into it, it is unmoved, he says. So you start imagining yourself like an ocean every day when you're doing the sadhana. After the sadhana is over, just you'll feel a sense of completeness when you do the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana. Just sit quietly for a few minutes after the sadhana session and enjoy that state of completeness. Today we will enhance that energy during the Nididhyasana meditation and make you experience that. That is very important. So when you're praying, what is true prayer? Prayer means thanksgiving, saying thank you to God, not complaining to God. So that is a very, very effective way of practicing completeness. By start saying thank you, that is thanking God, thanking nature for giving you so many things today. The more you get into the spirit of thank you, the more complete you will start feeling. Otherwise, you will have so much in life, yet you will feel so incomplete and stressed. Completeness will give you shanti, peace, and shanti will give you happiness. Incompleteness will give you stress. And when you are stressed, that will only lead to more and more unhappiness. So this clarity you should first develop. So every day, spend at least a few minutes in thanking God, especially early in the morning, as soon as you wake up. Just sit quietly for a few minutes and practice this gratitude. I thank that Supreme God for everything. I thank my Guru. I thank all the masters. I thank my parents, mother, father, my spouse, my children, my friends. Just start your day by saying thank you. That will help you to feel full and complete. It is a small sadhana which is being given to you. Practice this and see. Whenever you are in a complaining mood, whenever there is a problem, immediately remember these words. Okay, all these issues are there, but in this, is there anything where I can say thank you? And among 10 things which are going wrong, you will find 1 or 2 things which are going right also. You will immediately exercise your willpower and start feeling grateful for that. Oh, well, there is no salt in the food. You are very upset about it. Now at least you are having food. There are so many people who don't have food on their plates. They are struggling for that. So that aspect is there. So first, have you offered your gratitude? Have you said thank you for that? This is the sadhana practice which will help you to become a paripurna, which will help you to absorb the energy behind that word when he says samudram. The spiritual person is like an ocean, practice that. This is the sadhana tip for this week. Start writing down. It will be nice if you write down, because when you write, you're further enhancing the thoughts, So start writing down the list of things which you feel so good about in life, for which you want to thank God, you want to thank nature. Oh, I'm living in a nice house. There are people who are living on the pavements. So I thank God for that. That feeling of fullness you should start developing. I will initiate that further in today's meditation. After that, this week you practice this. Start feeling full and start thanking. And once you get into the spirit of thank you, believe me, there are infinite things for which you can go on thanking. That'll build so much of positive energy within you. Feeling that will contribute towards the feeling of completeness within you. And the more complete you feel, the more peaceful you will become. The more shanti you will experience. Okay, so we'll stop with that today. Before we do the meditation, I will take up a couple of questions which have come. This question is by Srinivas ji. Namaste Yogishri. In today's Bhagavad Gita discourse, you mentioned that Yoga Sankirtan should be done with bhavana. Maybe my listening to Yoga Sankirtan may have been mechanical. With what bhavana should I listen to Yoga Sankirtan? Appreciate your help and guidance. Bhagavad Gita discourses are very helpful, and I find some changes in my life slowly but surely. With regards, Srinivas. Now, it's a very practical question which has been asked. He has asked about the bhavana. What should be my bhavana while doing sadhana? First thing is, see, Yoga Sankirtan is the first bhavana which you need to build is Yoga Sankirtan is a sadhana, it's a meditation, not merely listening to Yoga Sankirtan. See, you listen to a song. Yoga Sankirtan is not a musical CD. It's not merely music. It is actually a deep meditative process. So the audio material which is being provided to you is meant to facilitate or trigger that inner meditative process within you, by which you start experiencing the higher celestial vibrations, the divine vibrations. So the first bhavana while approaching Yoga Sankirtan is approach it as a sadhana, approach it as a meditation, not as an audio material which you need to listen to, because you used the word listening. A couple of times you used the word listen, So normal Sankirtan is different, but Yoga Sankirtan is it's a meditative process, and the sound vibrations are being used to enhance that experience within you, to trigger that higher experience from within. So this is the first approach. The approach itself is, there is a small, I would say, depth which you need to add. That is, it is a meditation. Call it as Yoga Sankirtan meditation or Yoga Sankirtan sadhana. That's a very wonderful phrase. Then the right bhavana will be built. You will approach it in the right way. Number one. Number two, understand. See, how do you build the right bhavana? As I was saying here, anything which you do, you should know the purpose. So what is the purpose of Yoga Sankirtan Sadhana? It is to completely purify you. You've been storing a lot of negative energy within you. So many impressions from various experiences in life. And not just merely this life, but from many lives, You've been acquiring all that. So to purify yourself completely and to raise your consciousness, the Yoga Sankirtan is a powerful method by which you do that. So whenever we are talking of self-purification, especially at the karmic level, the right bhavana would be to surrender to the higher Shakti, to surrender to the Guru Shakti. So I would suggest that when you sit with a lot of gratitude towards God, towards your Guru and all the holy masters, then the Guru Shakti will get awakened from you. That humble approach is what is required. From the question, I can feel the energy of humility already there with the questioner, Srinivas ji. So now you just have to consciously increase it, that's all. So when you sit in a very humble way and in a very relaxed way, what will happen is the Yoga Sankirtan Sadhana will become very effective. If you sit with a lot of ego, arrogance, saying that I will purify myself, then the sadhana will not be so effective. So I will put in whatever effort which I can do, and I request the higher Shakti, I request the Guru Shakti to help me to purify myself. If that is your bhavana, it will give you excellent results. So fix a time for your sadhana, and it would be better if you have a bath and all that. That's just a psychological thing. You'll feel psychologically good because it's a very sacred thing which you're going to do. But from an advanced level, bath, no bath and all these things do not mean anything, because God is there everywhere and every time is auspicious. That is true. But in the initial stages, these kinds of things will help you overcome that tamas, when you have a bath and all that, and approach it like it is the most sacred activity which you're going to do. Do it with so much of bhavana. This is what bhavana is. See, why did they keep the rule that even in the puja room, don't light a lamp before having a bath? Then all these rules were kept, no? Why? These rules per se mean nothing. It is only to build that right bhavana, that's a psychological, to build that positive energy psychologically. So it would be best to do the Yoga Sankirtan Sadhana in the early hours of the morning. Because you would have slept and gotten up, you will be very fresh, and there'll be you wouldn't have started your activities, so relatively lesser things to distract you, and your stomach is also empty, which is very conducive for doing the deeper sadhana. Then you have a bath and all that, and you sit. This is the most important activity which you're going to do. Build that attitude. And once you sit, just for a minute or for half minute, thank God Supreme, thank your Guru, thank all the holy masters. This will awaken the Guru Shakti within you. And you say, I will put in this effort of doing this Yoga Sankirtan Sadhana, and I request the higher Shakti, I request the Guru Shakti to help me to purify myself. Just suggest you, it will hardly take half a minute. And then you play the Yoga Sankirtan. When the initial speech is there, utilize that time to practice deep breathing. There's a lot of energy when the speech is there that is meant to prepare you actually. Don't skip the speech and go to the next track, And then the musical part will start. You will automatically, you will start flowing with energy. Don't fix, before itself that I should get a calm experience, I should get this experience, that experience. Whatever be the experience that day, take it as a prasadam from God. So once the sadhana is over, then you will feel, I told you, today, that feeling of completeness. Just sit quietly for a few minutes. You will feel so good, so light. And then again you thank God Supreme, you thank your Guru, you thank all the holy masters, and you get up from your seat. So this thing, if you do, you will have the perfect bhavana with respect to your sadhana. Okay? This question, I had taken up this question because it will be very useful for all the sadhaks. Either you do something with bhavana or you don't do it. That is our yogic approach. So I genuinely appreciate this question when you ask what is the right bhavana when doing Yoga Sankirtan. Okay, so now we'll do the meditation. Sit in a relaxed way. Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. With every breath, I'm going deeper and deeper into myself. Deep deep within me lies Shanti, total peace. From this moment onwards, every action which I do, every word which I speak, every emotion which I experience, every thought which I generate will all be directed towards my purpose, which is Shanti, peace. I am like an ocean, Samudram. I am in a state of Paripurnam, completeness. I am one with that infinite, supreme being. Offer your gratitude to God Supreme. Offer your gratitude to your Guru and all the holy masters. Slowly come back. Wriggle your fingers, your toes. Rub your palms together to create a warmth. Cup your eyes with your palms. Gently rub your eyes, cheeks, forehead, top of the head, back of the head and neck. Slowly open your eyes. Welcome back. So today we had a very deep meditation. You are that Paripurna. You are always in a state of completeness. But your mind has gotten into an illusion of incompleteness. So do the sadhana which I had given you of starting to thank on a daily basis. Pick up anything which is positive and thank. Offer your gratitude. That will help in enhancing this energy of feeling complete. Slowly, what will happen is that you will become such a peaceful person. You will become a very pleasant personality. The more complete you feel, you will start radiating so much of positive energy from within. Your family members, your friends, everyone will start noticing the positive changes in you. Okay? So regarding the Prana Tattva level 1, I think you all would have already received the first instructions from me. That is, I have chosen 3 sentences for you to do sadhana with. That is to be done before you go to sleep in the night. So the instructions have also been given how you should read them and then practice breathing. So all that has been given to you. So first do that on a daily basis for a while, and then when you're further ready, I'll be sending you a small audio material, preparatory material, and how you should do that, how you should combine this with this, all that will be given to you. The instructions also will be provided. So when you read those sentences, I've carefully chosen the words, and since I've directly given you the message, they will be very, very powerful, energized sentences, So you can start preparing yourself. It will directly go into your deeper minds. And remember, all the registered sadhaks, from the day you register, your prana tattva has already started. The healing energy is being sent to your pranic body specifically to prepare you to receive the higher energy. So choose your food habits and all that properly. Don't overeat, don't undereat, sleep well, do your exercises. So that part of it also you should maintain. Okay, so we'll continue next week. Thank you very much. Hari Om.